Погиблим на Майдані і сотвори їм вічною пам'ять.
Kenney, thank you very much. Дякую and добрий вечір, everyone. Thank you very much to my dear friend Yaroslav Baran for bringing us together tonight. And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of friends and colleagues. So first of all, a friend, Father Peter Galatza. Father, thank you for being here. And I see colleagues and friends, Minister Chris Alexander, Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. My parliamentary secretary, who's teaching me the ropes over at National Defense, James Bazan. And speaking of Hawks and defense, Member of Parliament for Etobicoke Centre and former retired Lieutenant Colonel Ted Opius. Thank you very much, Ted. And I also see my good friend and Ukrainian brother from a different mother, Paul Broad, here as well. Friends, I wanted just to be here to show support on behalf of the government for the great work being done by Euromaidan Ottawa, which is putting on tonight's exhibit of works by Maria Arseniuk. And let's give Masha a hand for these beautiful pieces of art. So Masha is an example of one of the great assets of the Ukrainian community in Canada, which is incredibly talented young Canadians who have maintained a sense of fidelity and loyalty to the homeland of their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, and who never lost that sense of loyalty. And one of the reasons I think you see so much happening here in Canada with the Euromaidan movement and its echoes across our country is because Canadians of Ukrainian origin knew during the days of occupation, pre-Soviet occupation, and the communist Soviet occupation that went on for decades. They knew that they had a special responsibility. They who had the right to live in freedom had the responsibility to maintain a sign of hope for those who live behind the Iron Curtain. And so in so many ways, the Ukrainian national spirit had a more vibrant expression in Canada than ironically it did in Ukraine. There are people, like I often point out, former Alberta Premier Ed Stelmach, who was a fourth-generation Canadian of Ukrainian origin, but didn't speak a word of English till he went to elementary school. That's determination, that's cultural fidelity, and funnily enough, in Ukraine, he wouldn't have grown up learning to speak Ukrainian in the school system. So that is the special gift that Canada has offered Ukraine, is this kind of this love for Ukrainian identity and national self-determination. And we have seen that love expressed in incredible solidarity in so many ways, symbolic and practical, over the course of the past 2 years during the Maidan movement in Ukraine. which has been, in the words of one of my contemporary heroes, His Beatitude Patriarch Sviatoslav Shevchuk, it has been a Maidan of dignity. Just as the movement of Solidarność of the Poles in 1979 was a movement of human dignity. Those Poles heard the voice of St. John Paul the Great when he said, "Do not be afraid." They knew exactly what he was saying. He was speaking about the inviolable dignity of the human person, and that political systems must be predicated on, recognize, and protect that inviolable dignity. Of course, in 1989, the Iron Curtain fell, and yet Ukraine has gone through spasms of movements towards freedom and then retrenchments back towards authoritarianism, corruption, and a political system characterized by perhaps everything but human dignity. And so finally starting 2 years ago, Ukrainians said enough. They said enough with a political class that was treating Ukraine like a personal source of profit, that was leaders who were there not to serve, but to be served. And leaders who did not believe in Ukrainian sovereignty, but saw Ukraine as just a province in the sphere of Russian influence. And so Ukrainians said, we need to take concrete action to have a peaceful revolution in our politics. And that was informed by many people perhaps who had been educated in the West, like, for example, our wonderful graduates of our Canadian-Ukrainian parliamentary internship program, who brought their understanding of parliamentary democracy back to Ukraine. It happened through wonderful, that's right. We have a couple of graduates here tonight. It happened through wonderful independent institutions of civil society that refused to succumb to intimidation, like, for example, the Catholic University of Ukraine in Lviv, where the remarkable institutions of courage and dignity. And so Ukrainians began to join together just over a year ago in one of the most remarkable expressions of human dignity that we have seen in our time, that you, Masha, have so beautifully captured in these images. And I must say creatively, because we know that to be there on these front lines implied a certain danger. We know that there were people just over a year ago who went down to the Maidan day after day after day, and who realized there was some risk, but didn't realize that would be their last day. The Heavenly 100, the martyrs of the Maidan, who were targeted by thugs under orders from a man who turned on his own people, undoubtedly with the encouragement of the powers in Moscow. But this was a revolution of human dignity, because when that happened, when the mass killing of those innocent young Ukrainians occurred, Ukrainians from east to west, Ukrainians of all ethnicities and religions, stood together and said, enough. We must assert our dignity as human beings. And I'm so moved to read the words of Sviatoslav Shevchuk in capturing this, when he said that in those tragic circumstances, we are witnessing the rise of civil society and the birth of a new Ukraine that includes not only ethnic Ukrainians, but Russians, Jews, Crimean Tatars, people of Polish descent, Belarusians, Armenians, and Georgians, Ukrainian and Russian speakers, Orthodox, Catholic, Muslims, and Jews. In other words, citizens of Ukraine, who, irrespective of their origins, have expressed their desire to live in a free and independent country. And we are witnessing the emergence of a new form of Ukrainian patriotism, never before known in our history. A patriotism in which love for our motherland enables for us to risk our lives for our freedom and our independence. That is the democratic way, he said, to create state structures that will defend human dignity, not annihilate it. Ukrainians have made a free choice. We have chosen a European perspective on the development of our country, and we have chosen European values. We have rejected the post-Soviet heritage and any sort of extremism or violence. I think that beautifully captures the vision of Maidan, the vision that we see in these images. And so thank you for the financial support that your presence represents tonight, for those who continue to struggle against illegal and outrageous invasion of Ukraine. And you know full well that Canada stands in shoulder to shoulder in full solidarity with the Ukrainian people and supporting their territorial integrity, as the Prime Minister has said. 50 years from now, if the Russians are still occupying Crimea, Canada will always recognize Crimea as sovereign Ukrainian territory. Just as we condemn as strongly and as vigorously as we can Vladimir Putin's ongoing invasion of eastern Ukraine, and this is why Canada has led the world in sanctions on the Putin regime. This is why Prime Minister Harper led the G8 in expelling Vladimir Putin from that body of world leadership. We have sent tons and tons of equipment to support Ukrainian military, winter gear, and equipment that they need, night vision goggles and other military gear that can help them on the front lines. It's why we provided financial support to Ukraine. It's why we are trying to boost our economic relations so that Ukraine can help with economic prosperity through our free trade negotiations. Minister Fast having been to Ukraine twice in the last 6 months. And it's why, as the Prime Minister recently said, when Chancellor Merkel was here in Ottawa, in considering other ways that Canada can support Ukraine, all options are on the table. And so we will continue to work closely with the administration of President Poroshenko in identifying such ways, as he did in Canada, asking for us to provide radar satellite images so that Ukraine can track the movement of separatist forces in Ukrainian territory. And I'm pleased to tell you, there are a number of additional measures that we have under active consideration, but the most important thing is for us not to lose sight of this revolution of dignity, this Maidan of dignity, and not to forget what President Poroshenko said in our parliament, that Ukraine has no better friend anywhere in the world than Canada. Your proof here tonight once again demonstrates that. Thank you very much, Jack Reed.
The actions of our government are indeed a testament to your remarks that Ukraine indeed has no better friend than Canada. And I think our Polish friends who are present as well. Masha was born in Kyiv, but has spent most of her life here in Canada and spent a lot of time in Ukraine at Maidan during the events of last year. And what you're seeing here, the photographs that we're all here to see tonight, are just a very small fraction of the amazing imagery that Masha captured last year with her camera. Masha, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. So, as Jaroslav so eloquently introduced me, my name is Maria Arseniuk. I'm the photographer responsible for these photographs. And I'm a Ukrainian Canadian that spends quite a bit of time in Kyiv, and my purpose in these photographs is going back in the revolution to capture the human face of the revolution of dignity. I hope that you sort of, in looking at these pictures, you really see the resiliency and the perseverance and the determination that the Ukrainian people have, and their desire for democracy and transparency and a free country in these photos. And if you have any questions, certainly all of these photos have stories behind them, so please feel free to come and ask me. And I'd like to thank Euromaidan Ottawa for organizing this, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here and for your support. Thank you.
Final little announcement. This is a fundraiser, so thank you all for your presence here today and for your support. The photographs are for sale. Natalia, find Natalia, she's responsible for taking orders. So you can buy the ones here for sale tonight, or alternatively you can order a print of any of the photos here. They're all a limited print, maximum of 5 photos.
Розкажу про любов, що страждає.